ever just hit that point? You know, the one where you're just done? Done repeating the same mistakes, done with all the confusion, and you just decide, okay, that's it. I'm going to figure this thing out. The artist Pink actually captured this moment perfectly. She wrote, "The truth about love comes at 3 a.m., you wake up fucked up and you grab a pen and you say to yourself, I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna crack that code." I mean, that's it right there. It's that feeling of total frustration. We're just sitting around waiting for love to happen, just doesn't feel like a real strategy anymore. So that brings us to the big question. Think about it. We build our careers, our homes, our entire lives with so much intention. So why on earth do we leave our most important connections up to pure chance? Let's dive in. If we stop waiting for chemistry to just strike by accident, how can we actually create it? To answer that, we have to start by just throwing out the old script. Because it turns out chemistry isn't some mystical, random thing that just happens. It's not magic, it's polarity. You know the story we're always told, right? That falling in love is chaos. It's a lightning strike. It's this thing that just happens to us, and it's completely out of our control. But what if that's not the whole picture? What if there's a pattern there, hiding in plain sight? Well, that pattern is something we call polarity. It's this elegant tension between two distinct but complementary forces. So when two people bring different energies or different ways of seeing the world, their interaction creates this third, really electric dynamic that neither one of them could have ever produced on their own. The easiest way to think about it is with magnets. Opposite poles attract, right? They create that pull. Identical poles push away from each other. It's a fundamental law of physics, and as it turns out, it's a pretty amazing model for human connection too. And this isn't just some cute metaphor. We actually see this principle of polarity in action everywhere, from psychology to poetry to some of the most famous creative partnerships. The amazing psychotherapist Esther Perel says it like this: "Our need for togetherness exists alongside our need for separateness. Desire needs space." Her whole point is that the spark in a relationship lives in that delicate dance, between safety and mystery, between what's shared and what remains totally separate. And this idea, it's timeless. Kahlil Gibran wrote, "Let there be spaces in your togetherness, for the pillars of the temple stand apart, and the oak tree and the cypress grow not in each other's shadow." I mean, even a century ago, the wisdom was the same. Contrast is what creates attraction. We see this play out in the real world all the time. A perfect example is the collaboration between Kanye West and Virgil Abloh. You had Kanye, who was so improvisational and emotional, coming from music, and then you had Virgil, who was super structural and analytical, with a background in architecture. Their partnership worked because they didn't think alike. That creative tension, that polarity, that was the fuel for a whole new aesthetic movement. And science totally backs this up. There's something called the self-expansion model, and it basically shows that we bond most intensely with people who expand our world. When someone introduces a new idea or a totally different perspective into your life, that's when closeness really grows. Because, let's be honest, sameness feels safe, but difference feels alive. But, and this is a big but, here is where we have to be really, really careful. Because polarity has a dark side. The exact same things that create genuine chemistry can actually be manipulated to produce a counterfeit version of it. It's a psychological principle called variable ratio reinforcement, and it just means an unpredictable pattern of rewards. Okay, think about a slot machine. You keep pulling that lever because you never ever know when you're going to get a payout. Well, in dating, this looks like someone giving you intermittent, unpredictable attention. That uncertainty feels like excitement, but it's really just an addiction loop, not a real connection. And we see this in so many toxic patterns. Things like breadcrumbing, where someone gives you just enough attention to keep you hooked. Or future faking, where they promise you this amazing future they have no intention of delivering. Or that intense push-pull of an anxious avoidant dynamic. All of these create this huge voltage that we mistake for passion, when really it's just an addiction loop powered by insecurity. So here's the most important point. You do not need toxicity to create polarity. All you need is someone who keeps their own identity, who surprises you, who has this rich inner world that doesn't just revolve around you. You want tension without the trauma, and attraction that's built on a real substance, not on a feeling of scarcity.
Okay, so we get how to create the spark, but a spark is just the beginning, right? How do we turn that initial chemistry into something that has real, lasting staying power?
Well, the thing about the spark is that it's notoriously unreliable. It can come from danger, from novelty, from a rush of adrenaline. A scary movie can create a spark. The absolute wrong person saying the right thing can create a spark. It's a powerful feeling for sure, but it is not a foundation.
So what is? Well, a researcher named John Gottman spent 40 years studying couples in his love lab, and he got so good at it that he could predict which relationships would last with over 90% accuracy. And what he found is absolutely mind-blowing. The thing that separated the couples who made it from the ones who didn't, it was not the absence of conflict, it was the presence of repair. It was their ability to fight, to disagree, and then find their way back to each other. And all of that comes down to one core skill: communication.
And that brings us to our final and honestly most important idea. If communication is the key, then we can stop waiting around and we can actually start building. We can build chemistry intentionally. It's all about a fundamental shift in how we think about this. Start treating the search for connection like you treat everything else in your life that matters. You start with systems, not superstition. You create the right conditions for success instead of just hoping for a lightning strike. So what are those conditions? Well, the research points to three main things. First, intellectual friction, that healthy debate and difference of opinion we were talking about. Second, emotional safety, the trust that you can be totally vulnerable without being judged. And third, conversational voltage, that incredible energy that happens when two minds really connect and tune into each other.
And that leaves us with one last thought to chew on. We're so used to this idea of finding the one, as if it's some kind of treasure hunt. But what if that's the wrong way to look at it entirely? What if the best, the most meaningful, the most lasting connections in our lives aren't found, but built?